Hello everybody, today I would like to discuss certain things which are related to literary criticism. As per the syllabus of GIC lecturer, we have literary criticism a topic there, so I can just give you a brief of certain things. I cannot cover each and everything and just make videos just for you, just to be motivated, nothing else. It's not a complete thing, but it's a kind of motivation that if you watch, you can somewhere feel like reading, because if you keep on reading and don't stop, certainly you can qualify pre, and then if it is mains you can qualify that also. And this is very nice opportunity once you have 133 posts this time, so please don't miss this opportunity and accelerate the preparation that you're doing for GIC lecturer. Continue, please work hard as much as you can. It's all about each and every second in your life nowadays which we have lived with. Like 1 month is going to just change your entire life, so keep working hard as much as you can. So now continue, I would like to continue with certain things which are there in the part of literary criticism. When I say literary criticism, so we should understand literary means which is related to literature, and criticism means you have critical analysis of the things. Is the literature required? Why is literature required? What is the role of literature? What is the importance of it? It should be there in the society or it should not be there in the society? What are the requirements to be a being literary person, to be a poet, to be a prose writer, to be read by the others? What is those things which are required? What actually you differentiate between a serious person, serious poet, and a non-serious person, non-serious poet? Which kind of writing you prefer, which kind of writing should not be given that much of value? So these are the things which are actually we study in literary criticism. Yes. So now first talking about whether we should study literature or not. Is that so that we should have literature in our society? So I would say Plato began here. Literary criticism begins from Plato, Aristotle. These are the philosophers. You must have gone through these philosophers, whatever be the subject. You must have gone through these philosophers, and the philosophy knowledge becomes from there only somewhere when it comes to books that we read. So Plato started talking about literature. He actually had imagined a place in his book that is called Republic. He had thought that a society will be full of happy people and everything, but he had somewhere said that no, he does not want in that society which he has imagined poets, poetic people, literature. He did not want this kind of thing. Why? Because for him poetry makes people feminine, makes people sensitive, makes people emotional, makes people sad, cowardly. So that is why he said he discarded poetry. He said there is no use of poetry at all in society. We should not have poets in a society. So he imagined a state which he had in Republic. He did not have place for poets. So we can say literature is not allowed in society because it makes you feminine, it makes you cowardly, it makes you sensitive, it makes you emotional, it makes you cowardly. All these things are there, which Plato said. But his disciple Aristotle came forward and defended poetry. He said, whatever you say, but one thing is there. In no doubt, people are going to face sadness, happiness. These are the emotions and feelings people always will have. Sometimes what happens, you are excessively sad, and then you need catharsis. You need purgation of emotions. You need some peace. And this catharsis can be done by plays. This catharsis can be done by literature. So literature is very important when you have to shatter the cloud of sadness, to bring peace and life into ordinary people's life. Because if you don't have, literature, you don't have understanding of the feelings and desires and emotions and passions a person has. The expression that your mind and body needs is better done in poetry. So you need to express in order to be relaxed, in order to be light. And if you don't express yourself, just be tolerating the things, you are going to commit suicide, of course. So that is why literature is very important. You have to be a poet to express yourself, and that is why literature is important. So catharsis is very important. Purgation of emotions is very important. If you are sad and if you watch a movie which is based on literature, of course, and you shed your tears, so what happens to you? You feel relaxed. And this is what the job of the poetry is. This is what happens to people when they read William Shakespeare's plays, Hamlet, Othello, Macbeth, King Lear. So literature is very important. This is what Aristotle said. Yes, this is not I am saying, this is what Aristotle said. Yes, so Plato said there should be no poetry, but Aristotle said poetry is must to make a life better. Yes, as we know, poetry is mirror of society, so we need to have a mirror to show society its face and say there is some spot here that you need to correct, there is something good here that you need to celebrate. This is how the things are there. So poetry is important. And now if you talk about, now I have discussed literary criticism of, this is how literary criticism is, you know, you have gone through literary criticism of two poets now, Plato and Aristotle. So they can ask simply a question, who defends poetry? It's Aristotle. Who goes against poets and poetry? Is it Plato? So simple questions can be asked. So just celebrate reading also. Just read in a manner that it becomes easy for you. And now if you go for further writers that I can discuss with you. Aristotle I discussed, Plato I discussed. Now I will discuss William Wordsworth. You know, William Wordsworth is very famous critic. He says poetry is a spontaneous overflow of your powerful emotions. So what is a spontaneous overflow? Spontaneous should not be confused with the word sudden. Spontaneous is not sudden as far as William Wordsworth's definition of poetry is concerned. Spontaneous is that actually comes after a long process, long thought, long hours of thinking, long years of thinking of something, and then suddenly it comes to your mind. Now this is spontaneous. It's not sudden that has come into a moment, rather it has come into your mind, because you have been seeing and observing the things for many years, and now suddenly that comes true, and then you start writing. You are in love with someone, not for a day, not for a moment, but for many years, for many days. You have been brooding on that topic for many hours, and now suddenly a time comes when you are at peace, sitting somewhere nearby a river, out of your room, anywhere your emotions get place, then you write a form of poetry. So that is what is spontaneous overflow of powerful emotions which cannot be controlled and have to be expressed. Sometimes emotions be uncontrolled because they are so powerful that they need expression, and that expression, if you not can do physically, in that sense you go to that person and say I love you or something like that, so at least you can express in a poem form. So that is why poetry is very important, and this is what William Wordsworth says, poetry is a spontaneous overflow of powerful emotions. I hope you understand that. Okay, and now we have the concept of imagination and fancy that was given by H.T. Coleridge. Imagination and fancy concept is very important, because when you fancy is what? Assimilating things, dissipating things and making into one. Normally people think fancy to be imagination. No, imagination is quality of geniuses. It's not quality of ordinary people. Yes, those who are genius, they can only have the quality of imagination. Only we keep on saying imaginative. That is the fanciful mind, that you just make two things come together, three things come together, and you say this is going to happen, this is that. That's fancy. Imaginative is far better than that. Imaginative quality means you're understanding depth of life and creating something out of that. This is what genius does. An ordinary person does fanciful things, that you are guessing this can happen, this can happen. So that guess is not imagination, that guess is fancy. Imagination is poetic quality that you have because you have that poetic sensibility in you. It creates things out of the things that you have already observed, and this is not just making things come together, rather creating something new. Fancy make things come together. Imagination creates something new. So we need to understand the difference. Yes, so that is what imagination and fancy, the concept given by H.T. Coleridge. Apart from that, we can talk about Matthew Arnold. Matthew Arnold, I personally am very fond of Matthew Arnold, because as in the case of Aristotle, he had defended poetry. Matthew Arnold also defends poetry. Why? Because at that time people who used to have started having doubt for everything. He said, when it is the chaos time, Matthew Arnold, you must be knowing, it's the Victorian time writer. It was a chaos time. People used to have clash between religion and science. So this was unrest condition everywhere. No peace. Everywhere people started having doubt, everything like religion and the morals, values and truth, honesty and everything. Because this was a sudden change that in Victorian society people experienced. Science started dominating religion. Religion in the sense religious values, moral values. Survival of the fittest, the theory came forward. So people started having faith, loss of faith in all such things like moral values, truth, honesty, and harmony and balance and all. They just thought of being fittest in order to survive. So this chaos condition which was there, he said only can be handled by poets, and that's why he called them to be poets to be future legislators also. Why? Because they are the people who actually can be a balance between both religion and science. Poetry can create a balance, because concepts can change but emotions cannot. Whether you be in this society, whether you be in that society, your emotions, your feelings will remain same. So poet will remain relevant in every society, and it will give you a guidance that it is what you have to do. You belong to a country, you belong to a city, your emotions are emotions. You are human being, so you are human being, no matter what theory, what facts you are. So poets, that's why poets and poetry is very important. This is what Matthew Arnold says. So Matthew Arnold is very important. He has written a book. They can simply ask what is the name of the book. He has written a book that is a study of poetry, where he has given his criticism, where he has given his definition of poetry and how poetry is important and how poetry actually can replace religion and can be a balance. It is very much required, and it is something that is always going to remain there, because it is dealing with your emotions and passions, which a man can never be devoid of completely. If it is life, it is poetry also. So that is what Matthew Arnold does. He was a moralist, morals, you understand, talking about good and bad. He was a moralist, and he calls it to be breadth and finer spirit of knowledge. Breadth and finer spirit of knowledge. This question sometimes they ask, who speaks this breadth and finer spirit of knowledge? Who calls poetry to be breadth and finer spirit of knowledge? Of course, Matthew Arnold. Yes. Now we go for T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot, I personally am, again I'm saying, as I'm fond of Matthew Arnold in Victorian times, so in modern times, T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot has given the theory of impersonality. According to that, a poet has to not express his personal feelings and emotions. Rather, he has to come out of such things and express the emotions and feelings which actually can be applicable to the masses. It should not be only you that you are being expressed. It should be, he is a classicist. I must say there are two things, classicism and romanticism. Romanticism talks about your personal emotions, what you feel, your lover and this and that, you can express. But it's classicism talks about masses, society, and says you have to express, you have to write for the class, for the masses. Whatever poem you are writing, it should be read by the person, and the person who is reading should be feeling that is their story, not yours. So the personal element was missing here. He said that poetry should be based on classicism. Yes, classicism and romanticism, there are theories you must be knowing, they are very easy concepts, but he says to be a royalist, a classicist. T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot says this theory of impersonality is simply be free from your personal emotions and write something which is applicable to everybody, ordinary people. They all can relate themselves with. So this is how his things are, T.S. Eliot, what he says. So I think I have discussed you, Plato, Aristotle, Matthew Arnold, Wordsworth, Coleridge, T.S. Eliot. We have Virginia Woolf also. We have, in the modern writers, we have feminist writers like Virginia Woolf, who gives the criticism, the theories that it should be women-centric, which were denied, women were denied their voice, and now they should be given some place, and that's what we see in women literature in abundance now in modern age. So all these theories, all this critical analysis, critical literary criticism, and these writers I have discussed, I think this can be a help to you, and you can, this was just to generate your interest in these things. You just go on reading the books and prepare notes. Just keep on reading, use each and every second for your future, for your life. Thank you very much. Bye bye.